When we encounter a new obstacle or a new challenge, we wonder how we're going to overcome it. It feels daunting, like a different beast, and all we can see before us is how long and hard the path to the top of the mountain might be. We face these challenges time and time again. We overcome one thing, and with our sense of pride and accomplishment in hand, we're soon met with another thing that leaves us wondering, well, I've just done this. How am I going to overcome this? I've not done this before, or maybe even, do I have it in me to overcome this? Today we look into why every new challenge feels other and different, how we can accept and mitigate that feeling, and how we can build resilience and self-reliance when the next one inevitably comes. I'm Sam, the host of the Airing It Out podcast. Thank you for joining us again, and let's get into today's episode. Before we get started in this week's episode, if you could give us a like, a favourite, subscribe, whatever platform you're listening or watching to, it would be massively appreciated and help us get our message out there. Thank you, and let's get on with the show. Firstly, let's have a look at why we get this horrible feeling of dread or doom or this is different, I've never done this before, how am I going to overcome this? The reason why we like new and shiny things and remember a lot of things from our childhood is because of novelty. It's new and it's exciting and it's fresh off the press, and it's stimulating our brains because it's new information that it hasn't received before. It could be a new car, or it could be a new experience, and it can even be a new partner. The way that novelty works and why we don't have this sensation and time seems to pass so much quicker when we get older is because we've experienced so many things for the first time already that we're not always processing new information that our brain is going to retain and hold on to. You know, we're seasoned and experienced people now. We've seen a lot and we've done a lot, and we get that sense of novelty a lot less. And the opposite was true for our childhood, because everything was new and our brain was processing all this new information. But the novelty eventually wears off. Your new sexy car will become just a car. That TV show that you can't wait for the next episode for will, at some point, you'll look back and think, oh, I really wish I could watch that for the first time. And that new, vibrant, colourful and explosive relationship that you might have, the honeymoon phase will probably wear off. And you might have to think, geez, I've actually got to work on this now? What do you mean we can't enjoy the ignorant bliss of novelty anymore? It all seems positive so far, but the other side of the coin is true. That new job that you're anxious about and really want to make a good impression, you'll settle into. That assignment that seems huge and really far away and like there's got so much work to do, you'll make a start. You'll get involved in the process, and soon enough the assignment will be over. And when you get into a car for the first time and you think, oh my goodness, I have ultimate power over this moving metal death beast. And even when you have your test, you're thinking, oh my god, this is it, I'm terrified, it all comes down to this. But after a couple months of driving, it feels like you've been doing it for years. So the novelty works both ways. Novelty, whether good or bad, arrives in a fluster, but soon dissipates. And whether we've chosen a new challenge or a challenge has been imposed upon us, we're likely to experience that heightened state where our brain is adapting to something new. And one thing that our brains like to do is overcompensate for that new thing as it tries to catch up and process all of this new information. Part of that overcompensation, particularly when it comes to challenges, things we've never done before or things that we're afraid of, can be catastrophizing. This is when our brain exaggerates the negative aspects of the situation and jumps to the worst case scenario. And I'm sure I don't need to tell you, but our brains can be pretty creative when thinking about all the things that could go wrong with something that hasn't even happened yet. But it is important that we recognise that this is just our anxiety run amok in the novelty of this new challenge. And it will feel different. I mean, circumstantially, it will be different. And your brain will conjure up all the different ways in which this one thing can go wrong for you. Life can throw unique and, by definition, different challenges at us all the time. But if you will, allow me to explain why they might not be so different after all. Quick pause, like, favourite, subscribe and share, thank you. So you've overcome one hard challenge. It felt like it would last forever, and the rest and reprieve at the end of it were what kept you going. But now that you're here, you finally arrived at the end, you soon begin to wonder what you're actually going to do next. And then we see this in retirement. You'll find in the description a link to a paper that was done that proves that when people reach retirement, they're at risk of significant health declines because they get to retirement and they've lost work. They've lost this thing which kept them going, which gave them purpose and got them out of bed. And all of a sudden they're hit with this great big wall of nothing. Open space, open time. What do I do? Alternatively, you could have just overcome one great big challenge, but life has just thrust you into the throes of the next one, oftentimes without asking. Life can be merciless, and at times, as we mentioned earlier, it can feel like it's happening at you, rather than of your own accord. The point here is that challenges and obstacles are going to happen, whether we like it or not. I dare say that they're inevitable, and there's a good chance that they'll likely happen when we least want them to. And while we can't predict the future, we can prepare for it. Even so, when we idealise a life without these problems, the struggles, the hardships, the work, the pain, it sounds nice. But when you get there and you finally get this thing that you've wanted all along, it's quite often that it's not all that it cracks up to be. The grass... I've tried to explain this to people before. The grass is always greener. But the thing is, when you get on the other side of the grass, and you get the grass that you've wanted all along, the same still applies. So when you get that desired grass on the other side of the fence, the grass is still greener on the other side. You're still going to desire the thing that you don't have, even if you get the thing that you did have, which you wanted before. So these are two truths which might be hard to accept. Bad and hard things are going to happen, whether you like them to or not, and a life without friction would frankly be boring. The value here lies in accepting these two facts. Okay, now what? Well, next time something does rear its ugly head at you, you can say, well, I knew this was coming. I didn't know when it was going to come, but I knew it was come, so why not let it be now? And in our passive anticipation of life happening at us at some point, we have then mitigated that novelty of it happening or it occurring all at once. We've taken the power away from the shock, and instead of panicking or flapping, we now find ourselves in a better position to begin to handle the situation. So far we've learned to anticipate the curveball that life might sooner or later throw at us, and we've been able to recognise that our initial reaction might be exaggerated and that it will soon taper off and we can begin to react rationally. But what if your challenge merits anxiety? What if the fear doesn't subside and that your worries are firmly based in reality? Firstly, that's okay. If you're anxious, then that probably means that it means something to you. But we're not going to let the potential fear of failure or success ever stop us from trying. We've learned how we can anticipate things happening in the future, and we've also learned how we can mitigate the reaction that we have in the present. So, as you may be able to figure, the resolution to this last part is going to be based in the past. And the third element of how you can build resilience and manage challenge after challenge, as you may have guessed, belongs in the past. You're right, this is different. You've not dealt with this exact circumstance before, and that makes it scary. But you know what? Just because you're stood at the bottom of a mountain that has different verticality, a different altitude and a different terrain, doesn't mean that you haven't proved that you've scaled all the ones that come before you and lived to tell the tale. Every new challenge is going to be different, but that means that the game remains the same. I put my life on it, dear listener, that you haven't got to where you are today without overcoming numerous difficulties, pains, struggles, hardships, adversities to get to where you are today. And with every example of you overcoming, enduring, and learning, you have proven to yourself that you can do this. And you can do it again. We all know the feeling of when a challenge is placed before us, but that means we also know how to overcome every single "this feels different" or "this feels scary," because we've done that. You weren't always the person that you are now. Look back to who you were before you overcame these things. That's your ammunition. That's your proof. And that's your well to draw from every single time things get hard. And it works both ways. You don't become different after every challenge you overcome. You grow, you evolve, and you become something new, a new version of yourself. My inspiration for this episode was looking at professional fighters. Time and time again, they have to face a different opponent with different skill sets, as different as their identity and who they are. But ultimately, the game is the same. They have the fight camp, 8 weeks, they train, they learn, they adapt. So, while the opponent is different, the game still remains the same. It's not a different challenge, it's just a new one. And the same kind of happens in the emergency services. When I personally went on the fire engine the first few times, all the different kind of jobs that you go to is scary because it's different, it feels different. Oh my god, this house is going to be different from the last one. How is that one going to be different from the last one? And no two are the same. But you've got the training, you know how to do it, and you've done it before, and you can do it again. So the game isn't different, the challenge is just new. When we're talking about, in my experience with amateur kickboxing, like I remember very vividly that initial novelty reaction of anxiety, because when my coach said to me, "So do you want to fight?" I felt the cortisol and anxiety rise from the bottom of my feet like a thick lead sludge right the way to the top of me. I felt it so clearly, but that was because, oh my god, this is different, I've not done this before. And that wore off. The challenge still remained the same, which is why I thought it was important to include that element of this video. What if it does warrant your anxiety and your fear? Because ultimately I was still doing something that I was terrified of, and it meant a lot to me. That initial reaction wore off as the process began. The process itself was still scary. However, the second time around that I had an amateur fight, the opponent was different. I wasn't the same person that I was, but I'd learned and I'd grown from it. I'd learned and grown from that challenge of the last one. I took everything that went wrong in the first one, or didn't go right in the first one, and I used that experience to implement into this one. The game is still the same, it's just the challenge is new, and the second time around it was so much better, so much more enjoyable, so much more positive, because the novelty wasn't there. I had a well of experience to draw from, and I had proof that I could do it. So I thought that little anecdote might be helpful and gives you an insight into, I feel this as well. I still feel it. Like, my anxiety is still kind of deeply rooted in my nervous system, it feels like. So particularly socially, I still get that oh my god of some anxiety whenever something happens. But you know what, it's going to wear off. And once I get my reasonable brain screwed on, I'm going to come at this at a good and professional way. And I've given myself proof time and time again that, yeah, it'll be alright. Like, this sucks in this immediate second right now, but give me a minute and I'll come right back at you with Mr. Practical head on, and we'll get cracking. So as we begin to round off the episode, let's kind of encapsulate what we've spoken about today. By learning to anticipate the inevitability of life, we mitigate the shock when life happens at us. When we mitigate the initial shock and novelty of it, we better equip ourselves to become composed and to handle the situation. By being able to draw on the proof of your ability to overcome challenges, you'll begin to believe in yourself. And once you learn not only how to get out of your own way, but to instead get behind yourself, you will ultimately be able to accomplish anything that you set your mind to. Quick call to action for the end of this episode is to write that list down. Write it down, whether it be on an iPad or pen and paper, or you write it down on your arm. Put that list down. Create that list of everything that you've overcome, every challenge and hardship, whatever it is that has made you who you are today, and carry it with you, whether literally in your back pocket or if you want to carry it in your heart. Because wherever you go, life could always happen, and it's going to happen at some point. But if you're able to remind yourself of everything that you've gotten to make you who you are today, when it comes, you will look at it, you will look at this challenge and say, okay, I can do this. And that's the point of this episode. It's not different, it's just new. Thank you for listening or watching. We appreciate you being here, particularly if you've made it to the end of the episode. We value your time and your attention. If you can, or if you enjoyed this episode, please give us a like, favourite, comment, subscribe. If there's one thing that you've overcome that you're the proudest of the most, please leave a comment. Let us know what it is and we'll give it a share. Thank you, and we'll see you next time. Aaron et al. Podcast signing off.